President as a second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the two bills be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the prevention, control, and management of sickle cell anemia and for other purposes connected therewith 2021 SB 166, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act Cap 010, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to provide for the establishment of the Federal Orthopedic Hospital, the KINA, and for other related matters 2021 SB 516, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the prevention, control, and management of sickle cell anemia and for other purposes connected there with 2021 third reading taken, and the bill is passed. A bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act Cap 010, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to provide for the establishment of the Federal Orthopedic Hospital, the KINA, and for other related matters 2021 third reading taken, and the bill is also passed. Congratulations, Senate Leader.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Mr. Kingsley Toru on behalf of Rivermount Technologies Limited against the Department of Petroleum Resources for non-payment of the sum of 9,375,616,700 naira for contracts executed. B, petition from Senator Bode Ola on behalf of Cornerstone Montessori Schools against Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA, for the secret and illegal redesign grabbing of his plot number E27/3227 in Apple Resettlement by Federal Capital Development Authority. And C, petition from Jackson Bago Esquire on behalf of Akbajenya Community, Apple Village, Abuja, against the Federal Capital Development Administration for wrongful obstruction of their farmlands and farming activities. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we recall that these reports were laid on Thursday, 11th February 2021, Wednesday, 14th October 2020, and Thursday, 5th March 2020, respectively. Mr. President, we wish to invite distinguished Senator Patrick Ayo Akinye-Lure to move the motion for the Senate to consider these reports.
Distinguished Senator Patrick Ayo Akinye-Lure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Ayo Akinye-Lure, representing Ondo Central. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do consider the reports of Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Mr. Kingsley Toru on behalf of Rivermount Technology Limited against Department of Petroleum Resources (DPR) for non-payment of a sum of 9.3 billion for contract executed. B, petition from Senator Bode Ola on behalf of Cornerstone Montessori Schools against the Federal Capital Development Authority for the secret and illegal redesign and grabbing of his plot number E27/3277 in Apple Resettlement by the Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA. And finally, Mr. President, number C, petition from Jackson Bako Esquire on behalf of Akbajenya Community, Apple Village, Abuja, against the Federal Capital Territory Administration for wrongful obstruction of their farmland and farming activity. I so rise, Mr. President, to present the report. Thank you.
I need a seconder. Distinguished Senator Kola Balogun. Distinguished Senator Kola Balogun.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second
The motion moved. I so second.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive that the Senate do consider the reports of our Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, you can present one after the other, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I will start with A. Mr. President, I want to seek the indulgence of the Senate, particularly to give a detailed report of this number one because of the controversial nature of the report when we first presented it. Report of Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petition in respect of petition from Mr. Kisritoro on behalf of Riverine Technology Limited against Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, for non-payment of the sum of 9.3 billion for contract executed. The Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 28 April 2021, it considered the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions in respect of petition from Mr. Kisritoro on behalf of Riverine Technologies Limited against the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, for non-payment of the sum of 9.3 billion for contract executed, and resolved that due to some observed gray areas, the report be returned to the committee for further legislative action. Mr. President, following the committee action, the new Senate resolution and referral, committee met, examined the gray areas indicated by the Senate in the plenary, and resolved that the contract agreement 1, 2, and 3 entered into by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, DPR, and Messrs. Riverine Technology Limited for phase 1 and 2 and 3 were adequate and explicit enough, such that further interpretation will no longer be necessary be needed. Mr. President, like I said, Mr. President, like I said, that I asked for indulgence of the Senate to allow me to give detailed reports of this particular the report to the plenary, so that members will appreciate the position of the committee. The petitioner, Mr. Toru, on behalf of Riverine Technology Limited, testified before the committee. The petitioner, Mr. Kisritoro, stated as follows: 1, that the plenary of the Senate will recall that the SNA had resolved when the matter first came up, that Riverine Technology Limited be mobilized back to site to complete its work and be paid for work done by the Department of Petroleum Resources. But that despite the Senate resolution, DPR did not only refuse to effect the payment of the outstanding sum, it had also refused to come back to site, with the consequence that their default debts acquired because of the contract continue to rise, just as the federal government of Nigeria continue to lose enormous revenue to foreign oil companies as they continue to produce without measurement. 2, that the federal government of Nigeria, through the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, awarded real-time gas monitoring and measurement project contract to their company, Riverine Technology Limited, in 2009. 3, that the project was to design, procure, install, and commission a system that will facilitate remote monitoring of natural gas volumes in real time from facilities operated by oil and gas, mostly foreign companies in Nigeria. That the DPR has the duty of supervising the project and providing access to various oil and gas companies whose gas production volumes were unaccounted for. Hence, their company was charged to provide a means of digitally measuring, monitoring in a transparent manner, and more importantly, for accountability purpose. Number 4, that the project was to enable the federal government of Nigeria again remotely verify the volume of gas production in real time at remote point locations specified by DPR in order to ensure accuracy and accountability of gas production in Nigeria, and for the purpose of royalties, taxes, and other related payments and statutory imposition due to the federal government. 5, that the project had 2 phases, and the 2 phases of the project had 166 points to install the monitoring and measurement devices as identified by DPR. 6, that Riverine Technology RTL had since completed the project in 2014 after the visit and verification exercise carried out by the DPR and the Senate Commission on Gas, followed on 12 April 2016. 6, that RTL at the initiative of the project sponsor for a handing over meeting officially made a real-time stream in data presentation and officially handed over the equipment and the server code to DPR, which they duly acknowledged. 8. That the Senate Committee on Gas, headed by the Civil Senator Nkechi Nwogu, at their request, following shell development companies. Yeah. Okay. Now, let me go to DPR. 4.2. The DPR responding, the director of DPR, represented by Assistant Director Godi C. Ne, said, 1. That the project was conceived and awarded to Riverine Technology Limited by the federal government of Nigeria through the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources in 2009. That DPR was directed by MPR, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, to monitor the execution of the project. 2. That the scope of the project and objective entails engineering studies, equipment procurement, construction and installation of real-time gas production monitoring system. 3. That the project was to deploy a VSAT sponsorship control and data acquisition SCADA system for the purpose of monitoring gas inflows, outflows, and specific custody transfer data across the Sinde gas facility in Nigeria. That the contract was to be executed in 3 phases with a total of 160 sites. That phases 1 and 2 of the contract has expired without the contractor successfully performing the contract deliverable, despite receiving full payment for phases 1 and 2. That every effort made by DPR to get the contractor to perform the contract in full had yielded any positive result, as the contractor had since abandoned the project. That the initial complaint of access against chair and others by RTL to installation site was long addressed by DPR before the expiration of the contract, stressing that the time expansion clause of the contract will not be activated since there was no barrier to company meeting its obligation under the terms of the said contract. That the contractor has no basis for claiming any liability due to poor execution of the job and should be required to deliver on its obligation on phases 2 and 3 of the project, for which financial commitment has been made by BDPR. Our observation and finding. After careful studying the new submission and all explanation made available to the committee, I haven't considered the observation made by the Senate during plenary. When this report was first considered, the committee noted as follows. 1. That Riverine Technology Limited was actually awarded the contract to design, procure, install, and commission a system that will facilitate the remote monitoring of natural gas production volumes in real time for facilities operated by oil and gas companies, mostly foreign companies in Nigeria, companies in Nigeria. 2. The Riverine Technology has actually completed 116 sites out of 116 sites they were engaged to cover. 3. That though DPR claimed that the contractor was incompetent for not executing the contract to the fullest, the committee found that DPR did not also do well for neglecting its professional role and for approving the job done by RTL and issuing a performance contract, performance certificate to RTL, and on the basis of which they were paid and given approval to commence the next phase of the contract from phase 1 to 2, until all 3 phases had gone far, just waiting for completion. 4. The committee was amazed that a contractor DPR found incompetent was allowed to finish phase 1, commended and be paid and allowed to complete phase 2 and certify it okay and gave part payment and allowed it to commence to phase 3. 5. That when asked to explain why it did not implement the resolution of a Senate, DPR kept insisting that it was only phase 1 that was completed and that the contractor should refund money for phase 2 and 3, to which he gave approval and paid for in part. And since that when pressed further by the committee to explain why it paid for phase 2 and 3 in part, when it was sure that the work had not been done, DPR said it was Ministry of Petroleum Resources that gave the approval for payment. And that the committee, in the renewed effort to know the truth, discovered that Ministry of Petroleum Resources only signs contract on behalf of its agencies. Certification and payment approvals were always done by the agencies concerned since it was their project. The parent ministry only authenticates and go ahead for payment based on submission made by the DPR. That DPR is the actual owner of the project and also pays for it. Such. 8. That the committee also observed that all three contract agreement number 029 of 25 September 2009, number 046210 of 26 November 2010, and number 65211 of 4th March 2011 on the same job gave the employer power to terminate the contract if dissatisfied by the performance of the contract after notifying the other party within 14 days. 9. That in case of a full majority which could not be reconciled by both parties, either party could terminate the contract. 10. That in this case, neither DPR nor RUTL actually called for termination of the contract. The contract was still running as far as the contract agreement were concerned. And finally, number 11, that in all our findings made by the committee, nothing in the submission so far made suggest that there was an official complaint about non-performance or poor performance by DPR against RUTL. DPR only said in his own self-defense at the committee hearing, there was no letter on poor performance which could have been a reason to terminate contract. Recommendation. Based on the above finding, the committee hereby recommend as follows. The Department of Mineral Resources haven't failed to implement the resolution of the Senate, but ought to pay Reference Technology Limited the sum of 9.3 billion for work done. 2. That in view of the brilliant revenue of the federal government to finance its annual budget leading to deficit budgeting, the Senate further urge DPR to recall Reference Technology Limited back to site to complete phase 2 and 3 of the project to enhance the real-time capturing of a gas production volume by local and foreign oil farms, which will significantly improve the revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. And 3, in addition, the Senate further urged DPR to pay 10% interest of the outstanding principal of 9.3 billion, which tended to 937 million, for delayed payment of the principal sum since Thursday, 30th May 2019, when the Senate resolved that Riverine Technology be paid a position contract number 65211 and of 2011 phase 3 support. If the contract of RTL will not be renewed for it to complete phase 2 and 3 of the project in line with terms and the contract executed by RTL. Mr. President, colleagues, and respect colleagues, on behalf of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privilege and Public Petition, I appreciate the Senate President and leadership of the Senate for appointing giving to us to serve in this capacity. I so move, Mr. President.
Any comments? Otherwise, we'll go to the recommendations. Comment? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I only just wanted to say that the last time this issue was discussed, we actually urged the committee to go back and ensure that DPR is able to give any concrete evidence. And I think from what we have seen here, DPR does not have such concrete evidence. It means they are perhaps in default. So I just want to point that out because we actually have discussed this earlier.
Okay. Senator Samata Demi.
Well, Mr. President, I want to thank you. From the presentation of the chairman of our committee, there is no doubt that there was a valid contract. And there was no doubt to Mr. President that there are some shortcomings on the part of DPR. Like they say in law, ubi jus, ubi meridon. Where there is a fault, there must be a remedy. And the remedy is very simple, Mr. President, that Riverman Technology should be allowed to commence and complete phases 2 and 3 of the project, taking into consideration the dwelling resources of the federal government. I think effort must be made to ensure that there is value for all contracts awarded. And I think, Mr. President, is equally corruption on the part of any government agency when contracts are awarded and payments are deliberately not made. It is equally corruption. And if we want our country to move forward, government agencies must meet their obligations, especially when there are valid contracts. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the recommendations, distinguished colleagues. Recommendations on page 10 of the report. The committee recommends as follows. Recommendation 1, that the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, having failed to implement the resolution of the 8th Senate, be urged to pay Riverman Technologies Limited the sum of 9,375,616,700 naira only for work done. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that in view of the dwindling revenue of the federal government to finance its annual budget, leading to deficit budgeting, the Senate further urges the DPR to recall Riverman Technologies Limited (RTL) back to site to complete the phases 2 and 3 of the project to enhance the real-time capturing of gas production volume by local and foreign oil firms, which would significantly improve the revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And recommendation 3, in addition, the Senate further urges the DPR to pay 10% interest of the outstanding principal of 9,357,616,700 naira, which translates to 937,561,670 naira for delaying payment of the principal sum since Thursday, 30th May 2019. When the Senate resolved that Riverman Technologies (RTL) be paid a position contract number 65211 of 2011 phase 3 supports if the contract of RTL will not be renewed for it to complete phases 2 and 3 of the project in line with the terms of the contract executed by RTL. Chairman, before I put this recommendation to voting, is RTL asking for this 10% interest, or is the committee that is recommending it?